Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of The Legend of Tarzan. So, I got this nifty little thing at the screening. Not sure what it does, what it is, but hey, I got it, and it was free. Also got this poster, so can't complain when you're given a free movie and free stuff, right? So when I first heard the casting and saw that first trailer and the first images of Alexander Skarsgård and Margot Robbie in this film, I'm not gonna lie, my first thought was, wow, can I go ahead and get lost in that jungle with both Tarzan and Jane? Thanks. But seriously, this is like the sexiest casting they could have thought to do for these specific roles. But when you have two insanely attractive people in roles which requires them to really use up their sexiness, you get a little bit scared that instead of actually acting, they're just going to model their way through the film. And to some extent, unfortunately, both actors fall into that pitfall. And unfortunately, Tarzan as a film kind of falls into that pitfall. It looks gorgeous. It's just beautiful to look at. But underneath there's not a whole lot really interesting going on. So let's just go ahead and talk about the cast first. I think Margot Robbie, while she did vogue her way through quite a bit of the film, was the scene stealer. I actually thought she was very good. She had all of the really good comedic moments throughout the film. She conveyed a lot of emotion, and I don't blame her for, the voguing aspects, the modeling, the reaction shots. I think those were written into her part, and to her credit, she was still able to portray emotion, even though she was asked to just smolder the camera, look longingly into the distance so often. And unfortunately, Jane, she's a little bit more proactive here, but she still is that damsel in distress. So her role was very thankless, but I really think Margot Robbie stole the show here because she did so much with such a thankless role. I also thought Samuel L. Jackson was very good. People accuse him all the time of just taking paycheck gigs, and it really dilutes his legacy. But I will say this about Sam Jackson. Gig after gig, I never really see him phoning it in, and I definitely don't think he phoned it in here. Again, I also thought he was very funny, very likable, and he just worked in every capacity. He wasn't so Samuel L. Jackson that it took you out of the film, but his presence added to the overall experience. Then we had Christoph Waltz, who really just kind of was Christoph Waltz yet again, except I would say the second tier version. This definitely is not one of his better performances. He kind of was just playing a generic baddie here. He wasn't given much to do. He wasn't able to really delve in to that sinister nature we know Christoph Waltz can get into. And then Jimon Hansu wasn't given anything to do. I mean, he looked cool. The outfit they gave him looked awesome. But acting-wise, he was literally given nothing to do. And his total screen time maybe added up to 5 minutes. So good for you for getting good billing here. But I was just disappointed. He does have one emotional aspect to his character that was amazing, and he was able to really showcase it, but unfortunately, that's one little part of a scene that lasts maybe a minute, so he was pretty much completely wasted. So what about Tarzan? How did Alexander Skarsgård do in our lead role here? Well, he looked amazing. I mean, his body was pretty much perfection for what they needed for Tarzan here. So he completely looked the part, which we already knew from the trailers. Unfortunately, the acting was not really there. It all just seemed very one note, and I think that's a combination of both Skarsgård's acting and the writing. He was a very weird mixture. I didn't really like the prim and proper Tarzan that they were going for, and honestly, I could have done without the entire first act of this film where we're completely in England. I wasn't really interested in it. It dragged. It really didn't seem to have any sort of point. And Tarzan, just knowing this prim and proper English like this, seemed completely ridiculous, and I just didn't like it. And he continued to talk like that throughout, and it continued to bug me throughout. I think he was at his best and had the best human moments when he interacted with the animals. When he was just like showing love to those animals that he hadn't seen in so long. And those moments were always wonderful. Just watching him with the lions, with the elephants, with the gorillas, with everyone. Those moments were wonderful, and they brought such nice, subtle touches. Unfortunately, everything else was just pretty flatline, pretty one note. I mean, he did what he needed to do, like show grimace on your face for pain, show a little bit of teeth for anger. But I don't know, it just didn't work that well for me. Also, what is this Tarzan running around in khakis and dress pants nonsense? Like, come on. Come on, movie. Give us Tarzan in that frickin' loincloth. Let's just be honest here. You cast this man for a reason. You had him get that perfect body for a reason. Let's be real, if you're going to cast these two in general, and you're going to make the movie such a slug through the middle, this isn't aimed at children. So I think they really actually should have pushed it a little bit further and just gone full adult. Not adult film, but they should have aimed this at a full adult audience, gave us the adult themes. Unfortunately, they just kind of alluded at it or hinted at these little naughty jokes. I think, honestly, if they wanted to differentiate themselves from the other films and not make it so boring as it was through a good chunk of it, that's what they should have done. But anyway, back to the movie we got. So, as I said before, the visuals were really, really strong. And honestly, the visual effects and the beautiful scenery that they had here is what props the film up to what it is. When they have those gorgeous landscapes, and I think the CGI as well, all just looks so fantastic. There were a couple of moments with some of the animals where I was like, still kind of looks like a CGI creation. But for the most part, even things that I saw in the trailer that I didn't like the wildebeest stampede that you see, it looks so much better in the movie. It's so much improved. The only part, again, is kind of like the destruction and the falling stuff. Didn't look great, but I mean, really, big props to the filmmakers and the special effects team here, because it does look gorgeous. And I also love that they put some historical context around the story of Tarzan. We're talking about slavery. We're talking about issues that really were going on back then and, I mean, to some extent now. Maybe not the slavery issue per se, but, I mean, we've seen the movie about Blood Diamond, also starring Djimon Hounsou, but these type of deals and these type of trades and these type of, pillaging and raping of lands still happens to this day through Africa. So I wish they would have maybe tied it a little bit more into modern day, but I'm glad that they gave this sort of historical context and shed light on a part of history that really is overlooked for, the American history that was going on at the time. And in that aspect, I love that Samuel Jackson brought in the fact that, hey, we did that to the Native Americans here in the United States. We nearly wiped out a complete race of people. So I loved all of that, and I'm glad that they brought that to the forefront, because it's something that's really been ignored in the Tarzan lore up to this point in all of the film and television adaptations. But as I just mentioned, the movie really suffers most from just kind of being a slog. It's pretty boring through most of it. And honestly, I think any of the parts that weren't happening in the Congo just didn't work. I didn't care about Tarzan in England. I didn't want Tarzan in England. And it all just felt weird when we were there in that first act. I also didn't love the flashback structure. So they interweave the Tarzan backstory that we all already kind of know in with the current day events that are taking place in the Congo with Tarzan returning to Africa. The flashback serving as memories or whatever, it never felt organic, it never flowed well. I think at the end it worked okay to kind of intertwine the love story and really cement that with the audience. That was fine. But really just showing him as a youngster, showing him meeting Jane in the first place, it didn't flow and it didn't work. And I think it really slowed down the pace of the film. And then when we did get to the big climactic scenes at the end, it is such shaky cam and so much fast movement that it does get exciting. It's an enjoyable ending to the film. It's an enjoyable entire last act. But it could have had so much more heft if the build-up was stronger, if it had kept me invested as a viewer through the first two acts. And unfortunately, it just doesn't. Plus, they have just one too many false conflicts where you see somebody and they try to build it up like we don't know which way this is going to go. But as soon as the audience sees that other person, we know exactly which way it's going to go. So when movies pull that kind of crap, it just gets tiresome to me. Like, okay, we don't really need to build suspense here. We know where it's going. Why would the characters react like this? Why would they have a standoff? We know they love each other. Let's move on with it. Like, come on. So overall, I think Tarzan is okay. If you're looking forward to it, this would make for an okay matinee. And the reason I would give it a matinee over a rental is because it is just so gorgeous that it warrants a big screen viewing. But if we're judging solely on quality, I think you can wait for this one to come out to Redbox. It's perfectly okay. Nothing more. Not really good, but not a disaster either, in my opinion. So, that has been my review of The Legend of Tarzan. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below, and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see The Legend of Tarzan? And what is your favorite Tarzan representation in media? Let me know either in the comment section down below or hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!